Hello, everyone. This is Phil Yaeger, and I want to welcome you to my podcast, CPA Review and More, where we talk about CPA review and also other topics other than CPA review. Now, today, we're not going to talk specifically about CPA review. We're going to talk about the accounting profession itself. All right. And the question is, why is the number of people decreasing who are taking a CPA exam? All right. We'll talk about that. Now, before we talk about that, I just want to do a little bit of sort of a public service announcement. I mentioned before, my wife has had Parkinson's for the past 6 years, and I'm going to ask you a favor, all right? If you could contribute to the Michael J. Fox Parkinson's Foundation, all right, any amount, we would really appreciate it. Anything, $1, $5. And Michael J. Fox, they do research, they come up with new drugs, and they are the foremost, I would say, researcher in the Parkinson's area. All right. There is a Parkinson's Foundation, but they're not related to the Michael J. Fox. All right. So please, all right, for those who can't spell Michael J. Fox, all right, I'll see if we can put this on the screen. All right. I would appreciate if you would contribute. You don't have to mention for Phil Yaeger. Just do it. Do something nice. We're coming to the holidays. All right. And Parkinson's is becoming more common, but they are that close to finding some type of remedy. In fact, they found out quite a bit, since the last few years. So anyway, all right, that's that. And now I will talk about our guest today. Our guest today is Adrienne Gonzalez. All right, I have known Adrienne for many, many years. And is that correct, Adrienne?
Oh, yes.
All right, Adrienne, go back. We used to play in the streets of, we're not New York. Where are you from, Adrienne, originally?
San Francisco.
All right, she's from San Francisco, and I'm not. All right, but anyway, I've known her through CPA review, and we've had a good relationship, even though she has, recommended other courses, which, all right, I have nothing against that. But in fact, the gentleman she knew, I know him too, and he's a competitor, but I have respect for this gentleman. Not too many of the competitors that I have respect for. In fact, I think he's the only one I have respect for.
I love it.
The rest of them, all right. Hey, 88% passing rate, 90%. What do these people think? You are stupid. All right. There's no such high passing rates. All right. But anyway, all right. This business has become a real swamp as far as I'm concerned, the CPA review business. All right. But that's another story, maybe for another day, or we can talk a little about it at the end. But anyway, Adrienne, how are you?
I'm doing well, Phil. How are you?
I'm good. Adrienne is down in Richmond, Virginia. And
yes, sir.
We're going to talk about the number of people. All right. As you know, number of people taking the exam is decreasing, right?
Yes.
And do you have any theories on that?
I think, well, my main theory is that, and the ASCPA is struggling with this too, because people are taking accounting. Their accounting graduate numbers are up there, but the disconnect seems to be happening from the graduates to the CPA exam. So the question is, why are people not pursuing the exam? And I think I've looked at we've written about this a lot on Going Concern. I've read articles to death about this. I know the ASCPA is looking very closely at this, but I think one of the issues is the time commitment. It's a huge commitment to take the exam, and there are plenty of opportunities available to people. It used to be there was a very straight track from accounting graduates to the exam to public accounting to whatever. Now, in this day and age, there's just so many things that people can do with that accounting knowledge that it's not so cut and dry anymore. There was actually a video from the Illinois CPA Society last week. The CEO said, there's a couple different reasons why people aren't pursuing the exam. And one of them is the opportunities that are available to them. Why are you going to put yourself through that process if you're not taking that direct path that used to be, so clear cut back in the day?
It's also a 5-year commitment, right? For the CPA?
Yes, with the 150. Yeah.
Yes. And they can major in something else, finance, IT, right? And I think the starting salaries are higher than 5 years.
They are.
Is that correct?
Well, yeah. And that's the other big issue too, is that, it's such a huge commitment. And like, you're correct with the 150-hour rule, and the 5 years, that's only education, right? You still have maybe a year, 2 years, hopefully not, but possibly 3-4 years to get through the exam itself. And yeah, the problem is that the payoff isn't there. And when you've got student loans, when you're trying to jump right into your career, inflation is up, the cost of living is up, especially depending on where you live, and the salaries are just not competitive. So go into something else.
Well, you said the CPA is aware of this, right? This problem, right?
Absolutely,
Well,
they're panicking.
What are they doing? They're panicking? That's not going to solve the problem. Right? Are there any solutions they might have?
I haven't seen anything. That's not to say that they haven't come up with a solution. I feel like the most obvious solution to this, it's not make the exam easier. It's not, make it so it's only one section or anything like that. I think the exam is fine the way it is. I think the solution to this is on the profession side. It's not necessarily an AICPA problem, but the profession has a PR problem. The profession needs to be conveying the value of the credential. And I don't feel that the profession is doing that right now, which is interesting, right? Because a bunch of CPAs should be experts at conveying value, and they're not. So I feel like they're not getting across to accounting graduates and even people who might go into accounting, going back a little bit further into school, people who might want to be accountants, but they see other better opportunities. I don't feel that they're reaching those people because the incentives just aren't there. So I think there's a PR issue, and then also that the profession is not delivering on, salaries, certainly work-life balance. Who wants to go through a 7-8 year process, a very grueling process, just to have to work 80-hour weeks and, make far less money that you could in other fields?
And that, in most of those firms, all right, with the amount of overtime you work in their public accounting firms, a lot of them don't pay you overtime. Okay.
Not after intern, certainly not.
All right. And that's pretty unfair. They're billing you out. All right. So why aren't they giving you a piece of the overtime? All right. Because you say they're greedy? Is that a bad word?
I don't want to say that, but you're certainly free to say that. What bothers me on that topic, what bothers me is, we covered in the beginning of last year when COVID hit, as you remember, it happened very quickly. And we covered every single firm that was doing layoffs, that was cutting, all these different things. It was very quick. And I understand, nobody knew what was happening. They had to react. Just a few months after this, all these firms are, we've all got to, do our part, and it might hurt for a couple months, but, whatever. A couple months later, these firms came out and announced record-breaking revenue. And, I understand it's not like they could tell clients, no, don't give us money because we don't want to look bad. But at the same time, it's like, how quick they were to cut people off, to slash salaries, to say, we're going to need you to take a pay cut for a couple months, and then come out and say, oh, we made more money than ever.
Did they hire back any of the people they laid off, or they just didn't hire them back?
We heard of some firms that, there was one firm in particular, I'm not going to name them because their managing director got mad at me before for bringing them up in this conversation, but, they had a very,
Adrian, you can tell us. It's just between you and me, okay?
It's fine. I don't buy that. What they did though, so they cut salaries, everybody across the board. I think it was something like 5%. He's going to know if he watches this, he's going to know exactly what I'm talking about, but it was 5% for, I think, 3 months, something like that. And as soon as the situation was figured out, they realized they were going to be okay. They made those people whole. They restored. And as we know, it's sometimes a slippery slope, right? When you give away some rights, you may not get those back, whatever, but they made sure to make those people whole. There were some people who were laid off, never came back. But there were also firms who I think, did the best that they could and tried to keep people on. There were firms that straight up said, we are not going to do layoffs. There were firms that, we know firms that were kind of eager to put people on PIPs and say that, we didn't do any COVID-related layoffs, but we did have performance-based separations, which, okay, semantics, we all know what they were doing. But there were several firms that, they did make people whole. They did take very temporary measures.
Why didn't they lay off anybody? What about these PPP loans? All right. They could have taken those and kept people on. And, in most cases, these loans are being forgiven. All right.
They may have, I don't know. I don't know off the top of my head. That would have been my colleague Jason probably would have written about that if any firms did. I don't think we would ever know if they did. I don't remember if that was public or not.
I mean, I didn't see any purpose in laying people off. I mean, yes, if their profits are going way, way up, that must mean they have a lot of work. So therefore, the people who are left, if they're laying off, those people who are left, if they're making all these profits, they must be working them even harder than they were before.
Well, because you have to think too, COVID affected a lot of people, a lot of, everybody, but it affected a lot of business. A lot of businesses struggled. But, when you look at big four firms, they're not auditing, these small mom and pop restaurants that, went out of business because they had no customers. I mean, they're auditing businesses that they're going to need audits no matter what's happening. It could be Armageddon, the zombies are running through the streets and, GE is still going to need an audit. So, that work was still getting done. So you're right. I mean, it was kind of, why are you laying these people off? And then too, you have at the same time, the profession is talking about the talent crunch and we can't find, enough accountants and it's so competitive out there. It's like, well, if it's so competitive, why did you get rid of all these people?
Well, they can't find the talent. You think they're right that there isn't any talent out there, or is that just an excuse?
I feel like the talent is there. The problem is, and I wrote about this not too long ago, a couple of weeks ago. You have the four big four firms. They're all very similar, right? We get this question all the time. How do I pick between, just pick one. It really doesn't matter at the end of the day, especially if you're going to do your 2 years and get out. Who cares? Pick the one that made you feel the best at the interview or whatever. But I feel like if one of these firms came out and said, all right, our starting salaries are going to be $15,000 more than the other three firms, I don't think that firm would have any problem recruiting talent. I think part of the problem is, I don't want to say price fixing, but, they're all very similar in salary, benefits, what they offer. They all keep up with each other, right? Like somebody will come out and say, oh, we're going to give dad 6 weeks of paternity leave. Then another firm is like, okay, cool, we'll do that. And if you adopt a kid, we'll give you some, parental leave. So they're all very comparable. If one really came out on top, I don't think it would be a question at all that they'd be able to find talent.
What the starting salary is for just a bachelor's degree without the CPA? Do you have any idea what the starting salary is?
Well, I'll tell you what it was in 2007 when I started in CPA review. It was around 55,000 for the Bay Area. Mind you, again,
at a higher salary,
kind of higher, but I still see numbers similar to that. I think, I don't know exactly off the top of my head what it is now, but that was 14 years ago. And I don't know exactly how, inflation has been low because of the Fed and all that stuff. We won't get into that, but, I feel like the salary has not kept up. Rents have gotten higher. Certainly, student loans have gotten exceptionally higher,
right.
But I don't feel like salaries have kept up with that.
So here it is. The people are afraid. A lot of people think the exam is getting too hard. It's not worth it, right?
I hear both sides. I hear, I certainly hear from the people who took it before. I hear that the exam is too easy, but that's been the case since the dawn of time.
Have you seen their passing rates? They're unbelievable.
Yeah. I mean, last year, last year was higher than 2019, and this year is now higher than 2020. I'm pretty sure, correct?
Yeah. Now, I did ask someone at the CPA, whose name I will not mention. I said, when we took the exam, maybe the passing rate was maybe 16% on a part. I said, wow, you're getting 49, 50%. So he says to me, oh, those passing rates really are not, true rates. We play with them, and I didn't really get a straight answer. All right, because the passing rates are just unbelievable. I mean, that would mean that any Tom, Dick, and Harry now can start passing this exam. You don't have to be the brightest guy. And, and if they're just going to give out the CPA to anybody, which it sounds like they're doing, you're not going to have quality. And that was the purpose of these blueprints, okay? The blueprints were to have critical higher level thinking. Well, I don't know any other courses that are actually using the blueprints, all right? We decided We're gonna write our own books, all right? And we're gonna have the blueprints in the books, not at the back of the books, where anybody can take a copy of it from the AICPA, and we integrate that. And we push that the Yaeger course is the only course that integrates the blueprints. And these other courses don't. They haven't changed their books, all right? They're still doing it based on the content specification. Yet,
Right.
they have these passing rates that are unbelievable. So I say to myself, all right, we're pointing out that we use the blueprints, these other courses do not, and the passing rates are still high. It doesn't make any sense to me.
Is someone really claiming 90% pass rate?
Well, yeah,
Wow.
yeah. I mean, they're all up there, the high 80s, low 90s. Okay.
And it never changes year after year after year. It's, I know.
No. And they don't have to. I asked the AICPA, I said, don't you monitor these courses? And they said, our purpose is to protect the public, not the candidates. All right. They couldn't care less.
They said that word for really? They said that.
Yes, they say that.
Wow.
At meetings I go to. Yeah, we're here to protect the public. We're not here to protect the candidates. All right. Well, the candidates are being fed this garbage about these high passing rates. All right. And they take the course with the high passing rates, or, all right, we know there's another way these courses are getting more students. That's another area we could discuss another time. But I mean, it's just really, I mean, these people are very impressionable, and they just take, I mean, there's one course which I'm not the most fond of, all right, and they have exclusives with every firm,
Oh, I know who you're talking about.
you know what I'm talking about, all right?
Yes.
And one guy at the providers meeting, who name, remember you brought up his name?
Yes.
You know, yeah, he wanted to bring up antitrust against them. All right, because I mean, I'm not a lawyer, so I can't say, well, there's an antitrust violation. But you know, one of the parts of the exam is business law. And I mean, I'm just interpreting what's in the textbook. All right. And that sounded like a monopoly to me. All right. And they claim to have these phenomenally high passing rates. All right. You can't comment on that, can you?
I mean, I can comment insofar as, you know, you were talking about who's protecting the candidates. And, you know, I know you and I, as you said in the beginning, we've known each other for years. You know, I think we have similar philosophies. I haven't worked in CPA review for 10 years, but, you know, I cared very deeply about our students. It was something that was important to me. I felt honored to be on this journey with them. And at the end of the day, you know, I think of course, it was my job, you know, whatever, but I felt I wanted people to be as best informed as they could be. And that was, you know, my goal. And, you know, I do worry that, you know, with all these sort of these websites that have popped up that have monopolized Google, when you do a search for, you know, best CPA review, you know, I don't feel like the candidates are being properly informed. And I think, you know, that part sucks, because the other thing that happens is, you know, if they go into something thinking that these pass rates are so exceptionally high, then they start questioning if it doesn't work for them. Then they start questioning their own abilities and thinking, am I dumb? Is there a reason why I wasn't able to pass? You know, why am I struggling with this? And, you know, this is one of those, taking the CPA exam is one of those things where, you know, you've kind of got to have all the parts in place, right? Like you've got to have family and, you know, spousal support, and hopefully your job is supporting you. You know, if you're working ridiculous number of hours and your wife hates you because you're studying, and your materials are letting you down, and you're stressed out about this and, you know, whatever, you're probably not going to succeed. So any component that you can have at its best to support you is going to be something that you're going to benefit from. And I feel like, you know, if people think that, oh, 90%, high 80s, whatever, you know, I've got this in the bag, and that doesn't happen, then they start having that self-doubt. And that is really going to impact, I think, their success on the exam.
Yeah, before there was the internet, we actually, I mean, if I wanted to take a course, I had to do my homework on the course. I mean, I would go sit in on the course. I would get a sample of their materials and look at it. All right. Now the internet is taken over, and these people, they look at these people who evaluate the other courses, you know, and all right, little do they know there's more to that evaluation than they think. All right. And are those courses being evaluated fairly? Well, I know that one of these companies said Yaeger is better in this, okay? All right, Yaeger is better in this versus another course. Then at the end, the person says, I recommend the other course.
Mm.
All right. And that's what they go by, and it's what do you call it? Pay for play.
Pay for play. Yeah, and I did my thing. Oh no. Did he crash or did I crash?
All right.
Oh, I froze. Did you?
Froze. Have you warmed up now? All right.
Yeah, I'm back. Yeah.
Change the wires on this. I don't know why it freezes. Okay. Anyway, we'll go back here. All right. Do you write anything about these affiliate marketers? Have you addressed that at all in your articles?
I have an ongoing concern. I feel like our focus is on Big Four and, the CPA exam stuff. I used to write a lot of it. I don't write as much of it as I used to. It's not something I have addressed, but I've actually considered addressing it on a personal blog, which is not something that, I've done that for years and I kind of got out of doing that. I really would like to address it. The question is, would the candidates see it? Because again, they're, the searches are, it's all drowned out by all this, ranking. That's all very, this stuff that happened. I've done SEO for, 12 years, 10 years, something like that. So I know how this works. I don't know that most people understand how rankings work, how you can game the system just because it's at the top.
Can you say in a few minutes how rankings do work?
Yeah, well, so it's a technical thing. If you do technical things on the back end of a website, then Google lends authority based on several factors. One of them is like page speed. If your page is fast, you'll rank a little higher. One is the links that you have going to your website. So a link from a .gov or a .edu website is more valuable than a link from any random .com website. The more of those you have, quality links, the more Google thinks, oh, okay, this is a higher authority site, and it bumps you up. There's a couple tactics, that people could use. Some of them are shady. Some of them are completely valid. We don't know exactly what Google ranks. We don't have like a list that you can check off and then, you're up here. But, there's a lot of kind of guessing. There's a lot of testing that's done to kind of figure out.
Do you think some of these courses have the algorithms of Google? Do they have the algorithms?
No, nobody does.
Okay. All right. Because they seem to be able to, they get in the SEO, which is the organic, all right, they usually up there, they don't pay anything for that, and they're the top 3 because they know how to play the system, okay?
Yeah, exactly.
And honestly, I'll tell you something, to find someone in this business who does, which we've been looking for someone to do social media, okay? And I have to tell you something. It has been so hard to find someone, all right? And one of them is I want to go and do YouTube videos because we do a lot of videos, all right? No other course does that because they're not really teaching. We have videos when I'm standing up there. But to find someone who does YouTube, all right, social marketing, it is so hard. I don't know why.
Really?
Yeah. Why?
Why?
I found someone, all right, who she was saying that she's an influencer, but she's a chiropractor. Okay. So she has a large following with chiropractors. All right. So
right.
I found her and she said, "Oh, I can do that YouTube for you." All right. And she wanted $250 an hour and a $5,000 payment down. Okay.
I'm in the wrong line of work.
You are. All right. And by the way, you can apply for that position.
I got you, Phil.
It's and then on top of that, initially for the 5,000, you get 2 YouTube placements on your website, on YouTube channel, and then the next month, all right, it goes up to $6,000, okay, from 5 to 6, all right, and she gives you 3. All right, now, someone asked her, they said, "Have you ever done this before with CPA review?" And she says, "No." All right. Well, damn it, I'm not going to go to a patent attorney and pay high amounts unless the person's done patent law. All right.
I don't think people outside of the industry understand how esoteric CPA review is, right? You know this, I know this. It's kind of like a gang. Once you're in it, you can't really get out. But there's a lot more to it than.
Why do you say you can't get out?
Well, I mean, that's been my personal experience. I sort of stumbled into it, and here I am all these years later.
You know why I stay in it? Because there's no one to actually protect the candidates. And I'll tell you something.
Right.
All right. I have been in that for a couple of years. I mean, I could actually retire now. Okay. All right. But I say to myself, I don't like what's happening to these candidates. But you know something? In a way, it doesn't really make any difference. They're not, I'm not going to say they're dumb, but they're too lazy to check into classes. All right. And they'll take this course. All right. Which starts with a B, ends with an R, sounds like Hecker, and they'll take it and say, well, everyone takes that course. And then, the firms give it to them for nothing. And then they fail 3-4 times with that. And you know what? They keep trying because they believe that those books are going to magically change.
Yes. Yeah, they believe. Yeah, it's sort of like, when somebody's like, oh, I want to learn Photoshop. So they do a little research and they get the best Mac computer that they can possibly get that'll run Photoshop. All they're worried about is, the doodad that's going to suddenly make this viable for them, instead of thinking about, do I have the ability to learn this skill? What's it's going to take to get the skill? All it is, I got to have the trinket, and the work is just somehow going to, come together and materialize.
Have we exhausted the conversation on why there's a decrease in the number of candidates? Anything else you want to say about that?
Well, I suppose, I think that the profession is in the process of figuring this out. I feel confident that I hope that the AICPA.
I don't think so.
You don't think so?
They were trying to figure it out. In 2 years, they're coming out with the CPA Evolution, all right, where they're changing the exam again, all right, and they're putting a lot more technology in, but it's in the auditing area, okay, all right, because there is someone at the CPA Examination Division who thinks the CPA is a license to practice public accounting, all right? Well, with that thought, all right, he's going to say, you have to go into public accounting for a couple of years to get your experience. And if that's not the case, all right, you're not going to get the CPA. I think they're sort of pushing you into a certain direction that a lot of people don't want to go into. Not CPA courses, CPA firms, all right, where.
Well, there's a huge shortage. We're dealing right now. So our parent company at Going Concern is a recruiting firm, Accounting Fly, the small plug. But, right, what we're hearing from
what's their name?
Accounting Fly.
FLY?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And what do they do? They recruit people into companies?
Recruiting, staffing. Yeah. So they connect clients to qualified candidates. And what we're hearing on the Accounting Fly side, I don't work directly with them, but we hear a lot about kind of what the recruiting team is hearing profession-wise. And we're actually working on an article for this for Going Concern. There is a critical auditor shortage right now. Critical. We haven't really talked about it very much. I don't think it's at the tipping point right now, but it's concerning. These firms cannot find auditors. So I feel like the urgency of that push that you were talking about into these fields may be kind of reactionary to that shortage.
Except that if you're going to force people into public accounting, all right, and they don't like public accounting because of the quality of life situation, it changes your life. A lot of hours, all right, that, forcing people to do something is not the answer.
Oh, absolutely. I agree with you. Maybe
it's not time in 2 years to change everything. All right, let's solve the problem now. I mean, they just changed a lot of the exam on July 1st. Okay, mm-hmm. Especially in the auditing part, B, C, and they put a lot of IT technology. All right, now this is why I talk about the passing rates. The passing rates that were just released show very high passing rates. And I don't care what you say. There are people that come from either online universities, all right, or very small colleges, and they don't get the detail IT, all right? So how are they doing well on the exam?
So do you believe in the conspiracy that they fudge the numbers? They kind of, this is why
Well,
you may have a lot of people end up with 74s.
I don't know what to believe. I just know one thing. When I started in the profession, all right, the AICPA was run by CPAs. That's who's in the examination division, all right? Because I applied. There was a gentleman, his name was Gary Bomash, and he actually started out, he went to American University, and then, all right, he started out the AICPA. His job was to make up the auditing part of the exam, okay? All right, now, he decided after 2 years to leave, all right? I guess he went into academia, but then there was an opening for that position. Well, I heard about it, and I was working for a company who I didn't like, so I figured, hey, this would be great. Maybe it's education. Now, everyone in that area, everyone who made up that part of the exam, different, all right, they were all CPAs, all right? I go to these meetings, and I'll tell you, most of these people, all right, who are talking about the exam, all right, are not CPAs.
Right.
All right. All right. In fact, the woman you and I were talking about, all right, she gives the impression, all right. I can't.
I'm trying to think. Go on. I'm trying to think who we were talking about a lot of people the other day, Phil.
Yeah, well, all right. It says her position is CPA product administrator, something like that. All right.
Okay.
And that gives you the idea that she's a CPA. Okay. It's really misleading. I don't think she ever majored in accounting. All right. And
Well, I didn't either.
Well,
I'm an art school dropout.
You're lucky I'm talking now.
Yes.
What was your major? English?
I dropped out of art school.
Okay. And then what?
I was going to get into illustration.
Oh, like animation?
Yeah.
Stuff?
No, more like design. But I did, I always wanted to be a writer when I was a kid. So I really lucked out.
No, I think that's great. And, I've read some of your blogs and they're interesting.
Thank you. I'll take that as a compliment.
Yes. And the thing is, I just wish there were more, these providers, come to these meetings with me. They're not the owners of the company, all right? They're, marketing guys. They send all these marketing guys, all right? All they care about is, how can I screw the competition? That's all they care about, all right?
Right.
They don't care about, well, how are we going to help the candidates pass the exam, all right? One of them has a Hitler idea, if I don't get the entire world, all right, I'm not going to be happy, all right? If that's all the course wants to do, all right? Hey, it used to be when I started this business, there weren't as many review courses, but there were a lot more candidates, all right?
Right.
And we didn't really, our feeling was there was plenty out there for everybody, okay? All right, and we didn't do the things that go on today, we didn't give phony pass rates and all that stuff, all right?
When do you think it changed?
Because of the internet.
So
No one is monitoring the internet.
Right.
No one, hey, I have a 90%. Hey, I'll give you this one. Yaeger has a 90% rate in this basement where I'm operating, okay? We have the highest rate in this basement, I used to say we ran the course in Arlington, the live course. And someone once said to me, what's your passing rate here in Arlington? So I said, well, we have the highest passing rate on Fort Myer Drive in Arlington.
You used to have class in Arlington? That's interesting.
Yeah, we
Virginia?
We ran live courses. I stood up there and taught, sort of like Roger. Okay, we all did teaching. We actually had to stand up there and teach. Okay, all right. Today,
I used to film his classes. I probably sat through many, many more hours of CPA review than any CPA candidate ever will. Thankfully for them, that they would never have to sit through as many hours of CPA review as I did.
But that was what it was. You can't just go in there and run a course unless you can teach.
Right.
Know what you're talking about. Today, all right, you have these courses they set up, with computer programs. That's all they have. all right? And these guys come out of school, they have an IT background, and they start setting up courses, telling them, you gotta just do a lot of questions, do old questions, and you'll pass the exam. But the guy who's in charge of the examination division said to me, all right, that going over old questions is not going to get you through the exam, all right? Because the old questions are based on lower level thinking, all right?
Right.
But there are courses, every Tom, Dick, and Harry starts a course, all right?
Yes.
And a lot of them are backed by large corporations, all right, deep pockets. So they can spend money, on Google AdWords and all this.
Oh, and they do, because I laugh when, I'm on YouTube watching, funny cat videos, and I'm just getting nonstop, these fly by night kind of CPA review guys that pass the exam. And then
animation, is that the animation ones?
the one I'm thinking of is an actual guy who speaks. It's a guy on video or whatever. But I mean, I got, for a while there, I was just getting every video I watched, I was just getting spammed with this guy's ads, and I'm thinking, man, this can't be cheap. And I'm like, talk about, trying to, he's marketing to the wrong person, because that's not something that I'm ever going to, be interested in, is a CPA review course, but whatever.
Well, there's one course the guy does animation, he explains an area through animation. Okay. Now, what he's going to explain, a tax area with animation. All right. I mean, this is a gimmick. It's all gimmicks. Okay. All right. And I don't know if this generation likes the gimmicks or not. Obviously.
I think we all have shorter attention spans than we used to, certainly. And, that is a factor. But I think that's another thing too about these, these high pass rates. And I feel like the candidates, you were talking about kind of when the internet came about, you could go to live courses or you could do online courses or whatever, you could kind of balance that. And I feel like now it's getting a bit more homogenized. So it's just kind of this blanket that's like, here's your course, do this and you'll be fine. And it's not taken into account, different people's experiences, different people's needs, how different people learn. I remember we were live and online when I worked for Roger, and there were some people who they went to every live class, and I would say, they'd be like, oh, it's so difficult for me to get down here, but I have to do it, because if I don't, I'm not going to study.
Exactly.
So it's not, there's no customizing really. It's just, here's your course. Good luck.
Now we are doing, this is what done, during a pandemic, someone wrote on the internet, I don't know who was, some guy from maybe another course, said, don't bother study for the CPA exam. Prometrics will be closed and it's a waste of time. I saw that and I said to the other guy teaching with me, I said, let's use Zoom and do live virtual classes. Okay?
Oh, that's great.
And we didn't charge for the first year when people were out. Then we then we charged these huge amounts, right? We're doing them now. All right, 2 hours, $75. Now you don't have to take the whole thing because we do it by subject. Okay, so if you're having trouble with, say, earnings per share, we're having a class this Saturday. It's going to be live, interactive. All right, and people can ask us questions and we can see them. That's the beauty of Zoom. But
that's cool.
But it doesn't. People are not going into it. It's like the $75 to them is like a fortune. Where we know that the hacker course, okay, and they will, to redo their course. It's very, very expensive, by the way, and they'll just pay for that. So it doesn't make sense to me. A lot of things that go on. And
well, you just made me think of something too. Is that back in the day. My day, not back in your day, but you were around back in my day too.
I was. We actually came across from the East Coast to the West Coast on a Conestoga wagon, so I do remember that.
So and I always remember hearing this about you before we really had connected, but I always remember hearing that, one thing that students found valuable is being able to call you up, being able to pose questions to you was something that was truly valuable to people. And, we're kind of talking about how things are different nowadays. And I feel like that's really gone, right? That, people don't have that.
I still have that.
Well, most, let's say other courses.
No one has it,
Right.
They don't. I mean, people are shocked when they call my number. I give my number. They call me 7 days a week. I answer the phone.
I was shocked that you put your number in the Going Concern comment section and told me to call you about coming on the podcast, but you know,
Well,
hey.
Well, that's what I'm here for.
Right.
You know?
Yeah. And I feel like that's missing. And I feel like, you know, nowadays I do feel like people are a little more antisocial. You know, we do everything online. Nobody wants to pick up the phone. I get it. But at the same time, you know, that I think that connection is really important. Like I was talking about earlier with, you know, people being supported, just having somebody who's knowledgeable, who can kind of walk you through stuff is important for some people, like really critically important. And I feel like that's missing from this sort of homogenized, you know, whatever the state of CPA review is nowadays. You know, I feel like that connection is really missing. That was something that was really valuable to me when I was in CPA review.
They all advertise that they have a counselor. They'll answer you questions. That is so false. All right. Students say to me, all right, I love these students quoting. How come so-and-so said they have a personal counselor? All right. They call the number and the person they don't even know who the person is. And the person says, just do more questions. Okay.
Huh.
And they don't complain about that, you know, but God forbid I didn't do something right. They'll be all over me. That's what.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And it's a shame that this business is based on how much money is behind you.
Right.
You know, that should not be the reason. All right. Hey, the people we all started, we didn't have millions and millions of dollars behind us. All right. We were just the guy on the block. I mean, it was different. You know, first of all, Roger was not operating in Arlington. I mean, we were doing live classes. All right. There was enough people in San Francisco where he started, I think, going into other areas, didn't he?
He started actually in LA. He was working for somebody ran him there was a whole scandal. I'm not going to talk about it here, but yeah.
About Mark.
So yeah, but
you're talking about Mark?
Perhaps, but
okay.
I think anybody listening to this, if they're currently taking the CPA exam, this is way before their time.
By the way,
but yeah,
we're going to have our own magazine, all right, called Going the CPA Route. Okay, it's going to be
okay.
Oh, I'm just kidding.
Oh, okay.
We'll talk about all this.
This is the second time you fooled me since we've been on. I need to stop believing what you say.
You know,
clearly.
I have a friend of mine who says to me, and he knows me like 50 years, and he says, you know, Phil, he says things to me, and he says, I don't know if he's kidding or not.
Right.
And so I said, no, you'll know when I'm not. When I'm serious, you'll know it. But no, I mean, you probably could put a National Enquirer for CPA review.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Would anyone read it?
Well, it depends what you write, you know?
Right. True.
So, the XYZ course, their instructors they're on, you see a lot of them on Law and Order SVU. You know what that is? No, you know
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I do.
I'm just trying to think.
Are you calling them criminals?
Special Victims Unit.
Yeah. Okay.
I was ready to say one course, by the way, they molest all their students. Okay. All right. And someone said to me,
yes.
And I said, no, that's not true.
I remember. Yeah, you did. I remember you said that about that other course that they're pedophiles.
Do you remember?
Yeah.
Did you know Jim Bora?
No, I don't think so.
Jim was mainly in Baltimore. He was an attorney CPA. All right. He actually taught the course. I took a course called Kaufman-Cates, which is long gone, but he was the #1 course in the Washington, D.C. area. And Jim Bora was one of the instructors. And then I got to know Jim very well. And Jim had like 250 people in 2 locations, one in Washington, D.C. and one in Baltimore. And he had a tremendous personality and actually a very good teacher. And a lot of the things I learned about teaching, all right, I would say he taught me. And unfortunately, Jim is 13 years older than I am. And I spoke to him about a year ago. I don't know what happened to him, but those were people who cared. I mean, really cared. You know,
Right.
I don't care what someone pays you for this. All right. You have to stand on your feet and pour your guts out to people. All right. I don't care. What is that worth? I mean, we never gouged the people we still don't gouge the people. All right.
Right.
And I guess I say to myself, what is wrong with this business? You know, why aren't people more, why don't they look into things more? I mean, I always use the example, you buy a car, all right, what do you do? Walk in and just say, give me the car? Well, now there's a car shortage. Yeah, you might do that. Did you hear
Well,
that?
and I think a lot of people do. I think that that's kind of a symptom of our society that I don't think people realize. We were talking about the algorithm earlier, and I don't think people realize how much is sort of predetermined for us, right? Think about when you turn on Netflix. Netflix says, here, watch this, and Amazon said, my thing in the other room is going to be like, hey, it looks like you're about to be out of this. It's all very much spoon fed to us.
That is scary, isn't it? It's scary.
It is scary. I mean, I'm old enough to remember way back in the olden days when, there was no internet, but certainly in the last probably 5 to 10 years, it has been frightening how quickly things have changed and how, I've got a thing spying on me behind me right now that, knows more about me than probably anybody. Any of my friends
Can we see that on the screen? Where is that?
Oh, what, my Alexa?
Oh, the Alexa. Okay.
Alexa, never mind. Yeah, I have one of the.
We have that. Yeah. In fact,
Yeah.
It can start out and have a conversation with me. It's
really
scary what that thing picks up. Yeah.
Yeah, and our phones, and I think all of that. I think is and so it's certainly not just CPA review that has really lost the personal touch. I feel like it's everywhere. We're all just, and Corona only made it worse because we all went inside and didn't talk to each other, and everything is online. We don't even hand the delivery guy cash anymore when he drops off, our dinner. It's all just, it's very strange and a bit unsettling.
Well, yeah, I'll tell you, when I get the delivery guy, I'm actually out there waiting for him. Okay. All right. And I hand him the tip or whatever. All right. And I still like to see the guy. How are you doing? I don't know. Yeah. I always,
we're very similar that way. I like to talk to the Uber driver. I tell the bus driver, thank you when I get out. Of course. Yeah, definitely.
So where do you see this profession going? You see it being a dinosaur? Would you recommend to people to get into it or not get into it? And the other thing is, would you recommend that the CPA starts in 2 years with this another new exam? All right.
I have been on the edges of the profession for 14 years now. And, this is my home. This is, I may not be a CPA. I may not have invested the blood, sweat, and tears, but, I put a lot of energy into helping other people, helping people pass the CPA exam, and now informing people about, the state of the industry and especially younger people. That's our audience at Going Concern. We're writing for the early career accountants. We're writing for the accounting students. We want to make sure that those people are fully informed about, what to expect. And of course, nowadays you have Reddit and forums and everything, all this stuff is out in the open. Whereas 15 years ago, it was all kind of hush whispers about, work-life balance, whatever. So I love this profession. I could never do it in a million years. I cannot think of anything I would want to do less than be a CPA. But I feel like, like I said, this is home. I, champion the profession. I think the credential is valuable. I think the work that, I don't want to seem corny, but, the work that accountants do is valuable. I think, you have all these people who are really the backbone of commerce that get no recognition whatsoever. I don't think the average person has any idea how many accountants it takes to, hold up global finance. It would never cross their mind. All they care about is, can I get my taxes done in April?
Right. You see, that's the whole thing. I don't think they really know what a CPA does.
No, certainly not. It's the PR problem. It's the PR problem of the profession. But I think the problem we have is, okay, the public doesn't know what CPAs do. Fine. But now we're getting to this area, with the CPA evolution and with the technology and all this stuff, we're getting to this area where the profession is starting not to know what CPAs do. And so I think right now the profession is at a real crossroads, right? We have what is it? 75% of ASCPA members are eligible to retire in the next 15 years. We have shortage of accounting professors. We have fewer people going into, taking the CPA exam. All of these things happening at once could reach a very critical point if something doesn't change. And I unfortunately, I don't have an answer for, what needs to change. I think it's more complicated than that.
My goal would be to make a difference. And really, I'm not the only one who's against it. All right, stop this evolution from going into effect in 2 years. All right. They want to more or less, with the different colleges, the purpose of the evolution was to say, hey, we want you, if you can, have the curriculum that we recommend. All right.
Yeah.
And a lot of the college professors are against that. And,
Interesting.
Yeah. And I understand, I have to check this again, but I understand when they started with this thing, they asked college professors their input, but they really didn't use that input to vote whether this thing goes through or not, which is quite interesting,
Yeah.
Didn't
you say AAA was speaking out against it?
Yeah, American Accounting Association, people in there.
Okay.
All right, but I call them up to be on this podcast, all right, and they don't call me back. And I think to myself, hey, I'm not calling you for you to pay me for something. I'm not trying to sell you insurance. All right. I just like you to be on and talk about your feeling. All right. I was able, you remember the Cognitor, we spoke about that. Okay.
Oh yeah.
All right. But anyway, because it required the entire vote of the ASCPA membership, it got turned down. Okay. Without going into detail.
It got depressingly turned down too, didn't it?
Yeah. And you know what? This evolution, it's not being voted on by the membership. It's the CPA examination division.
Do you think that some of these professors that you've reached out to, do they not want to go on the record? Is there an issue of career suicide if you speak out about?
I've reached out. One person called me from American Accounting Association. And I said, I'd like someone on there to be a guest. And she said, well, let me get in touch with this person. She never called me back.
They don't call us back either, Phil.
But you know what? I called her 3 times, left a message.
Right.
She didn't call me back.
Right.
And I think to myself, these people at the American Accounting Association, they don't realize that they're being indirectly affected by this. All right. Because if there's no CPAs, all right, they're going to have no American Accounting Association.
Right. Yeah. I don't know that, it's not critical yet, but I do think we're getting there. And I think that something needs to be done. As far as the CPA evolution goes, I certainly don't have as strong an opinion as you do. I feel that the ASCPA is trying to make an attempt to modernize, which I feel is a good thing.
Yeah, if that was the case, though, they wouldn't. Hey, that's fine. I agree with that. Let's modernize. You can go into IT or whatever. But then the experience requirements are the same they are now. All right. They're not taking away the public accounting. So it's sort of like, to me, a smoke and mirrors, there's all the areas you can go into, but then don't look behind the curtain. You still have to get that public accounting experience.
Right.
And don't they know that people don't like to go into public accounting?
I mean, I read these press releases from these firms boasting about themselves and the experience that they offer. And I'm sitting here going, do they believe this when they type this up? When the PR person types this up and says, okay, looks good, let's send it out. Is this something they earnestly believe? Or, because it's one thing to say, just do it, do your 2 years. It's a great resume item, which it is. Nobody's denying that. It looks great on a resume. It'll serve you, throughout your career, whatever. But, do they honestly believe that it's fun? And that it's necessary?
I don't know. I mean, first of all, they want to get people in the firms. Okay. All right. Do they believe it? I don't know. I mean, this guy at the CPA examination division, he thinks auditing is like the area. You're getting that CPA because you want to have a license to do public accounting. But, if it's 2 years experience, all right, I came out of an accounting firm after 2 years. I didn't know how to do anything. All right.
Right.
So 2 years of public accounting. All right. Because I had a small practice. I had to teach myself everything, So I don't think that really makes a difference. But I just don't know. I think we're going to have a CPA revolution.
Excellent. I can't wait.
I don't think it. Well, I'm only one person. All right.
I'll have my camera ready.
I'm not exactly Paul Revere, going through the streets of
I am. That's my job.
your job.
Yeah.
All right. Well, anyway, I appreciate you being on here. I didn't put you, by the way, you want to tell who you work for? I don't think I mentioned that. You mentioned Going Concern. All right. Tell us
Yeah.
what Going Concern is.
I am the senior writer at goingconcern.com. We are the Gawker. Well, nobody knows what Gawker is anymore. We are basically an accounting tabloid. We write about profession news. I cover some CPA exam stuff. We cover mainly Big Four stuff. We exist to not just rip on the establishment, but certainly to call out the establishment. We do a lot of stuff about salaries, trends. As I said earlier, early career stuff that's valuable to students. We're sort of the water cooler of the profession. We like to pull kind of the interesting bits, that we see. We get a lot of tipsters that tell us about what's happening at this firm and that firm. And, we want to make sure all that stuff is out there.
Do you think does your articles make a difference, change people's thoughts, or are you just informing them?
I guess I would like to hope that, I don't want to change anyone's mind. I don't want anyone to read an article of mine, anyone who's considering accounting and read an article of mine and go, oh, no way. I want to make a difference as far as educating people and informing people. And also giving people a voice. I've run, letters to the editor from people who we did a story recently. This guy had this experience at the EY Neurodivergence Center, and they're putting out all these press releases about how great this is and whatever. And this guy wrote a piece that we published that was like, look, this was my experience. Here's what happened. They treated me like I was less than. Blah blah. And so, and he ended up saying after too, he was like, thank you for letting me speak about that. And I said, thank you for speaking up. I'm really glad that you did. And so like stuff like that, I think is important to me more than anything. Do I hope I make a difference? Yeah, but let's be honest, it's accounting. I mean, we're not changing the world here, Phil.
Yes, we are. We think, no, that's true. That's true. It's one little profession, right? Actually, it's an important profession. It's an important profession.
It is. It certainly is. Yeah.
I'm seeing more people that are not going into public accounting. They maybe take their year or two. But you know what? The big areas are going to all this advisory services, consulting.
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
They're going into the artificial intelligence stuff. All right. Very impressive. I mean, I had a guy on last week, and the person who does these things, he forgot to record the video. All right. But this guy had on his name was Donnie Shimamoto.
Yes, I've met Donnie. Yep, I know him.
All right. We had
great guy.
We had a great podcast. Okay.
Yeah, he's awesome.
All right. Then they forgot to turn the thing on.
Who forgot? His people?
Our podcast guy is in Europe. All right.
Ah, okay.
They threw it on me. I didn't know I had to turn it on.
Oh, wow.
Once again, quality service. That's what we say. Quality.
Whoever dropped the ball on that, don't hire them to run your YouTube channel. For sure.
I can't find anybody for YouTube channel. You know about YouTube channels?
I could run a YouTube channel.
Can you? Okay. All right. Well, maybe I'll talk to you.
Call me. Yeah, call me, Phil. You have my number.
Yeah, call me. Yeah. All right, Adrienne. It was good seeing you. God, how long we know? You know how many years we know each other? Let's figure.
10, 11, something like that.
I think it might be longer.
I mean, I've known of you for a while, but I don't remember speaking to you until you remember I talked to you when I moved out to Maryland.
Right.
Because you were right up the street.
Actually, it's the first time I'm really talking to you. And
yeah, I know. Yeah.
And I appreciate you being on the podcast. I really do.
I appreciate you asking me. This was fun.
Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, that's enough of our talking. And thank you for watching the CPA review and more. And I want to thank Adrienne Gonzalez, all right, for being on from the name of your company is the what?
Going Concern.
Going Concern. Okay. And what might someone watching this want to use Going Concern for?
To find out what's going on in the profession, how much money they can expect to make, or rather not.
And you have a placement recruiter, right?
Our parent company, Accounting Fly, is a recruiting company. If you are an auditor listening to this, firms are desperate for auditors. Call us. We'll hook you up. But yeah, they do recruiting and connecting, and it's all remote work. So it's no in office. It's been remote since Accounting Fly only does remote work. It's been that way since before COVID. It'll be that way until the end of time. They were kind of, that's what they've always been pushing. We all work remotely, everybody in the company. That's something that's important to us. So.
Well, I've known you a long time, and I've read some of your articles and they're really good. And
thank you.
Keep writing, and I'll tell you not to keep writing. I mean, I know you're independently wealthy. You don't have to work, but
I wish.
Well, I just hope that happens one day. You don't have to work. Maybe you just enjoy what you do so much,
I do. Genuinely, I do. I'm very lucky. I'm not filthy rich. I'm not even what I would say clean rich or any other type of rich, but I do what I love. And I know a lot of people can't say that. So that is certainly valuable. I would love to make a lot of money. Don't get me wrong.
That is so true. That is so true. And thank you very much for being there for the candidates. They're really good. Okay.
You too, Phil.
Anyway,
thank you for what you do.
And I wish you happy holidays. And
you as well.
Maybe we'll do it again. If you really enjoyed this as much as I did, we can do this again. Okay.
I would love to. We can do a CPA Evolution. We can dig into that a little bit if you want.
That would be great. That would be great.
Cool.
And by the way, everyone, I thought this this COVID virus would make people a little nicer. All right. I'm finding they're even nastier than they were before. So you know what? When you go out there, all right, try to be nicer than they are. I mean, God, people are, I don't know what their chip on their shoulder is, but I say to, be kind to people. All we have is each other. Maybe that's being idealistic, but anyway, this is Phil Yaeger. Please listen to our podcast every Tuesday. There's a new topic, and we enjoy having you, and we enjoy that you're listening to our podcast. Thank you so much, and take care, everyone.